Informal Assessments by Megan Roy. Informal assessments are not data-driven, but instead are driven by content and performance of the student. They help educators learn about what the student needs and what the individual student needs for future lessons. They inform instruction, and they are to be used during learning, not after learning. Formal assessment example is anticipation guides. I've used anticipation guides in my classroom before and after a unit and chapter or concept. What an anticipation guide is, it's a simple checklist of statements, and students get to either answer that they agree with the statement or they disagree with the statement. Anticipation guides can also preview vocabulary and assess what the student knows prior to learning the lesson, and then also assess the same set of questions for after the lesson. The assistive technology or educational technology that can be used with anticipation guides include electronic worksheet, a graphic organizer, an audio player or an audio recorder for questions and answers, and then for students who struggle with pacing, a timer would be beneficial for them. Advantages of using anticipation guides. One advantage would be to assess prior knowledge. And then the second one would be it assesses how the student has changed their thinking from the beginning to the end of the teaching. And a disadvantage would be that, at least with my students, students end up guessing a lot of the times, and it doesn't quite tell the teacher what they know or don't know. They have a 50% chance of getting it correct. So this can often have an impact on whether or not the student knows the content before it's actually taught. Anticipation guides. The second one is collecting work samples. With work samples, you can collect them through written materials, classwork, homework, notes, use of graphic organizers, and specifically in my 8th grade science class, I would collect lab reports. With this, some assistive technology or educational technology that can be used would be, again, an electronic sample. That is a nice one because it can be easily shared with colleagues or therapists or whoever else needs to get it, parent, guardian. The Go Formative is a great way as well to incorporate collecting work samples from them, like entrance and exit slips. And then, of course, gaming. You can pull data from quizzes, Kahoot, Quizlet, and that data can be shared within Google Drive. The advantages, it's easily documented due to either like being an electronic copy or even like a physical paper copy. It can easily be documented and easily shared to everybody. The disadvantage would be with classwork and homework, specifically in the older grades. We really struggle with having the completion done and having it done to the best of their ability. Sometimes students half-heartedly complete work or just don't complete it at all. The third informal example is event sampling. Event sampling focuses on a certain behavior and a certain event, or like when it's actually happening. Classroom uses might be to monitor or observe the student for specific behaviors before, during, or after. Assistive technology might include tracking data through Google Sheets, which is very easy to share with parents and guardians and other teachers and therapists. Mobility aids would also benefit the student. If you have a student that struggles with pacing, timers would be used as well. And then also videotaped normal social skills, so the student can actually watch them and learn what normal social skills would look like. The advantages of event sampling would include you're actually correcting the concerned behavior or the area, and it's single observations. The disadvantages would be the time and the effort that goes into the observations. The assessment must have been before, during, and after to collect data. And then also other or outside variables can affect the daily behaviors that you might be seeing, which might include if something happens at home and then they have a bad day, that would impact the student. Last example is Four Corners. Four Corners I've used in my classroom before as a brain break, but this I have an A, a B, a C, and a D in 4 of my corners. And after asking them a question, the students will actually locate themselves. They'll move to the specific corner of the room of whatever answer they think that it is. So this can be used as a bell ringer or a warm up. I've used it as an exit slip, as like just a quick documentation of whether the students get it or they don't get it. And then, of course, I use it as a brain break. It gets them up and moving, which is kind of what I like to see. And then also like a comprehension check to see if they get it or they don't get it. Assistive technology and educational technology. GoFormative is a great one for this, for posting a question. They can actually go to the answer that they want to choose. They can also use their phones if they have a device. They can use their phones to plug it in before the answer is shown to them and then move to where they want to go. A document camera can be used with this as well, just showing the questions. And then a reading assistance, if the text needs to be in speech, that could be read to them. And then, of course, font variations. You can make it larger, smaller text, different colors, that sort of thing. The advantages, you are having students move around the room, so it should be engaging. The students are up and moving, and it's just a quick survey to see if your students get it or they don't get it. Some of the disadvantages that I have in my classroom, the main one is that my students love to just follow each other and follow the crowd. So if they see a lot of people at letter C, they usually just go to letter C instead of actually figuring out, okay, what is the question asking and what is their answer that they want to choose. In conclusion, informal assessments, they're ways to assess students' strengths and weaknesses and potentially plan for further and future instruction. It should help educators understand how students should be grouped for future lessons or instruction. It should also help with the pacing of the lesson, meaning that the educator should understand, how fast or slow this lesson should be taught. And then, of course, the last one is it identifies what students need individualized support for future instruction as well.